Hello and welcome to my preview for the February 10th edition of AEW Dynamite. I am Miss Dynamite herself, Stephanie Chase, and I'm going to be taking you through all the matches that have already been announced for this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, giving you a little bit of background, predictions, whatever I think about what we have coming up on the card for this week. But before we get to Dynamite, if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, and you can also support this and the rest of my work over at patreon.com/Stephanie Chase. And if, like me, you love AEW and you love Dynamite and you can't stop talking about it, join me on this channel every Friday night for a live show that I do called AEW Weekly, where we go in depth on Dynamite, everything that's happening in AEW. I take all your comments, questions, whatever you have to say about what happened that past week on AEW. That is the place to be Friday nights here on this channel. So last week's Dynamite was absolutely huge. Whether you think that the forbidden door is open or even just slightly ajar, it was enough for KENTA to sneak through and appear on Dynamite to attack the IWGP United States Champion, Jon Moxley, who was acknowledged as that on the broadcast for the first time. Whatever you think that the future holds for New Japan and AEW having a relationship, to me, it was one of the most exciting endings to a wrestling show I have seen in a long time, which means I'm extra excited for this week's Dynamite to see how they're going to follow it up. And on last week's Dynamite, we also had Chris Jericho and MJF winning the tag team battle royal. They get a shot at the Young Bucks at Revolution, which brings us to this week's Dynamite, because the first match we have announced is the team of Chris Jericho and MJF taking on the acclaimed Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. Now, this match actually stems from stuff that happened in last week's tag team battle royal. At the beginning, we had Jericho and MJF coming out to their awesome mashup theme, which I'm personally calling Better Than Judas, even though it is, of course, not Better Than Judas, the best wrestling theme. But anyway, it was interrupted by Caster doing another one of his raps, which, of course, did not sit well with Jericho and MJF. Now, in the Battle Royal, we saw MJF and Jericho eliminate Bowens, but Caster, he made it to the final six, and he was actually the one who eliminated MJF. And there's also some personal history between MJF and the Acclaimed, because Anthony Bowens and Max Caster and MJF are all graduates of the Create a Pro Wrestling Academy. Now, I'm very excited for this match. I think that Jericho is absolutely at his best when he's working with these younger guys that he wants to get over. And I can expect that MJF and the Acclaimed are going to have some really good chemistry together. As for who will win, it makes sense with Jericho and MJF being the number one contenders for the tag team titles, that they would have an easy victory here. However, we cannot forget the inner circle drama that is happening. Yeah, Sammy Guevara, why can't this be love, Sammy, between you and MJF? Because last week, Sammy Guevara was not happy at all that Jericho and MJF were the ones who won the Battle Royal, and he actually walked out of the locker room. But Jericho followed him, and then MJF talked to the rest of the inner circle members in private. We don't know what he said, but I have a feeling that if anything is going to go wrong in this match for Jericho and MJF, it will be because of Sammy Guevara, who will be just out to get revenge because he does not like MJF, and we all know why. But whatever happens in this match, I'm expecting it to be really good. I think the Acclaimed are also a great tag team, and Jericho and MJF just have such great chemistry together that I really hope they get a good, solid run as a tag team before we get that inevitable inner circle breakup that we have all been talking about for months. And in another tag team match, we have Cody Rhodes teaming up with Lee Johnson to take on Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi. Now, Lee Johnson, who is he? He is from the Nightmare family, training at the Nightmare Factory with QT Marshall. And he's been on Dark quite a bit, where he's lost 29 matches in a row. Yes. But he's going to be the one teaming with Cody. And on the other side, we have Peter Avalon. A few weeks ago, he took on Cody in a singles match. Now, last year, Peter Avalon had his own losing streak on Dark, but then he managed to rack up some wins. Then he got the match with Cody, which he lost. His tag team partner, Caesar, he's a former NXT prospect who now finds himself in AEW. This match, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen here because this massive losing streak that Lee Johnson's been on and the fact that we haven't seen him on Dynamite makes me wonder, is this setting up some kind of great introduction for him where he will find himself and get on the path to, racking up some wins, maybe even turn on Cody? But anything Cody's involved in right now, what is hanging over him is this match that he has coming up with Shaq, where he'll be teaming with Red Velvet against Shaq and Jade Cargill. That is the big destination for Cody. It's less than a month away. So I have to wonder if we're going to see some interference here. Maybe Jade Cargill turns up like she did during Cody's match with Peter Avalon and distracts him. Whether or not that leads to Cody actually losing the match, I don't know. Maybe Lee Johnson's the sacrificial lamb. I can imagine that they'd want to keep Cody very strong going into this match with Shaq. But this just, it seems like a random match to have on Dynamite, some random pairings here. So it's just got me thinking that this is part of some kind of wider angle that is all about the Cody Shaq match that we have coming up. So a bit of an interesting matchup we have next because Pac is taking on Ryan Nemeth. Now, Pac was awesome in last week's main event, and I kind of wish that he'd maybe been rewarded for that performance with Archer's spot in this week's main event. But anyway, that's not what we've got. We have Pac and Ryan Nemeth. Ryan Nemeth, we saw make his Dynamite debut a couple of weeks ago when he took on Hangman Page. Now, Ryan is, of course, the brother of Dolph Ziggler, which, it's not something I want to harp on connecting him to his brother, but at the same time, it's totally inescapable from the performance he had on Dynamite and to his look. That is, all anyone was talking about. So I hope this is maybe an opportunity for Ryan to kind of show us who he is. He's in there with Pac. Pac is one of the best in the world. And I felt like when Ryan had his match with Hangman Page, he was maybe suffering from a bit of ring rust. Apparently it was his first match in 3 years. So it's understandable that he, maybe wasn't putting on his best performance. So I hope he elevates his game here with Pac. And if Ryan Nemeth is going to be someone that we'll be seeing a lot more of in AEW, I hope he can just establish himself and his own character away from any, preconceived notions that we might have of him being Dolph Ziggler's brother. So this will be an interesting match. It's a great opportunity for Ryan Nemeth. Pac is also always awesome. So let's see what Pac can do in here with Nemeth. And next, our Women's Championship Eliminator Tournament is kicking off this week with Layla Hirsch versus Thunder Rosa. Now, to me, Thunder Rosa is probably the best women's wrestler on American TV right now. I absolutely love her. I loved her match with Britt Baker last week. I was anticipating it so much. I thought that it delivered. I can't wait to see them face off again. I think this is going to be something that will turn into a series of matches. Obviously, Rosa lost by shady means on the part of Britt Baker and Rebel. But now she has a chance, first round of the Eliminator Tournament. I can see her going very far in this tournament. And Layla Hirsch is someone that people are very high on. She seems to have a lot of potential. I see so many people want kind of more for her character-wise. People think that she'd be a great addition to Team Taz if they ever want to bring in a woman, which I think would be really cool. But I think that Layla, she needs that opportunity to show why people are so high on her, because I don't think we've seen that yet in AEW. So there's no one better than she could be in the ring there with than a ring general such as Thunder Rosa. I think this will be a great match. I think they're both going to bring out the best in each other. I think it's going to be super, super hard hitting. And yeah, it's just a great way to kick off this tournament. This tournament sounds absolutely fantastic. We have so many great competitors in there. on the USA side, we have so much talent that we've been watching recently on AEW, but then the Japanese side is just incredible. There are people that have never had exposure on American TV before that are going to get it through this tournament. So I'm just excited that this tournament is kicking off, and I just can't wait to see what we're going to get from it in the coming weeks. And then we have TNT champion Darby Allin taking on Joey Janella. If this match isn't totally crazy, I think people are going to be wanting a refund, because here are two guys who are known for just doing whatever it takes and doing the craziest spots possible. They are two guys who on paper don't seem like they should fit in to a mainstream American promotion being on national TV. But it's amazing how well Darby Allin fits in to AEW. I just recently watched their match from PWG, the one that Dave Meltzer can't stop talking about, in preparation for that. And it was wild. It was absolutely wild. It was wild to an extent that I don't think that we can see on Dynamite, because it is, on the TNT network. But it at least shows you the levels of craziness these two are willing to go to, and the trust that they must have with each other to do crazy spots. I can imagine Janella doing something absolutely like cringe, cover your eyes, and Darby the same. I think that this will probably be Janella's best match in AEW so far, because I don't think he's had that kind of breakout AEW performance yet. And also to note that in the PWG match, coincidentally, there was a point where like snow fell during it, which I thought, wow, snow? There's only one person in wrestling that we can associate with snow now, and that's Darby Allin's dad, Sting. So that to me was some future fantasy of booking there, that there was snow. I think that Team Taz, who weren't allowed in the arena last week, are going to be here for this match, wanting to really make an impact. And because the big rivalry here is, of course, between Team Taz and Darby and Sting, which is heading towards a match. So I think that we're going to see some interference from Team Taz, and I think that we're going to see, once again, Sting come out there to be that equalizer and to save Darby. But yeah, I'm expecting this match to really blow me away in a way where it's not going to be like anything that we've seen on Dynamite recently. But our main event is a lights out, no disqualification, anything goes match, which means that if Darby and Joey is crazy, we could have one of the most hardcore editions of a weekly wrestling show that we've seen in a very long time. So Kenny Omega is teaming up with KENTA to take on Jon Moxley and Lance Archer. Now, as we talked about, KENTA arrived on Dynamite last week. He attacked Jon Moxley. That's the person he's going to be facing for the United States Championship in New Japan. But I think the really intriguing thing here is how he coexists with Kenny Omega, because these two have not been put together because they're best friends. No, it is an uneasy alliance match. So after Dynamite, we saw Kenny approaching KENTA, trying to be all nicey, and KENTA told him to F off. So there is like a huge intrigue for me about how the New Japan Bullet Club, led by Jay White, which KENTA is a member of, how they feel about this American version of the Bullet Club that Kenny Omega is doing with the Good Brothers. So there's definitely an interesting dynamic here of how this could maybe further some kind of Bullet Club versus Bullet Club type story rivalry that could be going on between what Kenny has here in the United States and what Jay White has back in New Japan. And also for KENTA, I think this match is really important because he caused such a massive splash last week just by turning up on Dynamite. The excitement among wrestling fans was huge. But at the same time, those of us who are in that bubble of watching New Japan and watching AEW, we know who KENTA is. We know why he's important. We know what he can do. not everyone that watches AEW is a New Japan fan. So I think that there's some people who maybe don't get the significance of this and don't really know who Kenta is, that Kenta needs to impress, whether it's people that have never seen him before or people who only remember him as Hideo Itami in WWE NXT. And that's certainly not the legacy that Kenta wants to have. So I think he has to really impress on this Dynamite, but I think he will. I think everyone on this match knows that they have to put on their best performance, that there's going to be so many eyes on it, so many people wondering what's actually going to happen here, because now we have a New Japan wrestler wrestling a match on Dynamite, which is amazing, awesome, earth shattering for wrestling fans. So this match, I'm really hyped for this match. Jon Moxley, he's always great. He always just really puts himself into all his matches. And I think that Lance Archer, he's probably there to be the fall guy. I cannot see Omega and Kenta losing this match. I think it's going to be the Moxley Archer team that loses, and I think Archer is going to be the one to take the fall. Archer is, of course, himself a former New Japan guy, so maybe he was put in this match because of this deal with New Japan that they wanted Kenta in there with another, New Japan connected guy that they could really trust and the office would be happy with. Whatever the politics are behind this, it's going to be great. And yeah, I think that while the match should be about Kenta versus Moxley, I'm really thinking about Kenta and Omega and how they will coincide and get along and what might be said between them. But you can't deny this is a huge main event to put on Dynamite, and I think one that fans are just going to be very excited for and waiting to see whatever happens, because when you end a show like last week's with a huge surprise like they did, people are expecting you to follow it up with something huge. So yeah, a lot of excitement for this, for the whole show tomorrow night, and especially this match. There you have it. That is my rundown of what's happening on Dynamite on February the 10th, tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said before, please subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, share it, and also you can follow me on Twitter at Stephanie M. Chase, and don't forget to join me here on Friday night for AEW Weekly, where we will go in depth on what happened on Dynamite. Until then, thank you for watching and take care.